All right, y'all, Malawi lesson four. So we're going to identify the key characteristics of Malawi's economy. That is the focus of this lesson. Okay, of lesson 4. So we've already talked about history and government with the timeline, the introduction on lesson 1, history and government lesson 2, focused on culture lesson 3, and now we're looking at economy lesson 4. Okay, now the North Carolina Standard Course of Studies that understand the economic activities of modern societies and regions. Obviously, we're looking specifically at Malawi. So here we go. This is what your document should look like. This is what your organizer for this lesson focused on Malawi. Now, a little bit of math today, some math questions that you're going to get into. But as the presentation goes today, okay, as the presentation goes, the slideshow, I want you to make sure that you're addressing these questions. So instead of taking like just rapid bulleted notes, I want you to take the time to thoughtfully and thoroughly answer these questions. So I'll read through these quickly. Malawi has what type of economy? But make sure you explain why. Make sure you can explain why Malawi has that type of economy. Okay. What is Malawi's GDP, or gross domestic product? And what does that even mean, right? So you're not just saying the GDP, you're explaining what that means. What is their GDP per capita? What does that mean? And then based on the GDP and GDP per capita information, what is their population? Okay. What is Malawi's major industry? What does that mean? What is the total amount of Malawi's imports? What is the total amount of Malawi's exports? Based on the export and import information, what does Malawi have? Does Malawi have a trade surplus or deficit? And how much? And I'll explain all this in the presentation. And then what is Malawi's currency? $1 is equal to how many of Malawi's currency? And then here's like a word problem, right? An EOG type question about having all this money, going to the bank, exchanging it, and going to the hotel, and how many days can you stay? All right. So that's the focus throughout this lesson. So don't just take notes. I want you to take notes, but then make sure that you can elaborate and explain and show your understanding of the information. Hang with me. Hang with me. Okay, Malawi, economics. So here we go. Type of economy. If you remember the types of economies, right? We have market, command, and then we have mixed is everywhere in the middle. Okay, again, market, command, mixed is everywhere in the middle. Market is the people have absolute control. The government is 100% hands off. Command is the government's in control and the people don't get any say at all. But anywhere in between is technically a mixed economy. So Malawi has a mixed economy. Okay, there's both free market and command economy characteristics. There's government regulation, there are taxes, there's this involvement with the government, which makes it more command, but there's also free decision making by the people of what they want to do. So this is similar to the United States, but here's the deal. Enforcement of government regulation is lacking. The government is a little bit disorganized and not as functional, I guess, as the US government. So it lacks in the ability to enforce the regulations, the laws, to protect people's rights, property rights, all of that. Okay, so people can make their own economic decisions in Malawi. You could buy what you want, right? In Malawi, you go to the store and buy whatever you want. Go to the market, buy whatever you want. You could do whatever job you want. Okay, but here's the deal: the economy is struggling, so that limits people's opportunity. You can buy what you want, but if you don't have a job because there's 50% unemployment, 1 out of every 2 people is not working in a way. That's some of the data that I've seen. I've also seen others. Then you don't have money to spend on whatever you want. So yes, it is a mixed economy and people can decide, but not much to decide if you can't find work and you don't have money. Okay, so those are some of the things that are some of the issues facing Malawi. So here I was looking at a resource talking about the health of Malawi's economy. Okay, and this is just showing the rankings and just kind of how the government does in protecting people's rights. They don't do well here. The red means it's just not going well. Up here would be, I don't know exactly where the United States would be. Okay, property rights, government protecting them, judicial effectiveness, the judges, the whole system. There's a backlog of just different court cases about protecting people's property rights, And then government integrity is lacking. So it's like corruption is a part of the issues with Malawi's economy. So I'm gonna press play on the music, and I want you to answer that first question, please. Go.
Sadana, here, team for the 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 Sadana, here.
All right, here we go. We're going to continue here. Gross domestic product. Gross domestic product. Okay, this is the total value of goods produced, goods and services produced in a country during 1 year. You take like all of this production and that is takes place with goods and services. It's kind of like the overall value and what the country is making. Okay, the total in Malawi on average in a year is $23.7 billion. That may sound like a lot. But then here you go, per capita means per person. On average, a person in Malawi per year makes a total of $1,199. Major industry, agriculture. Major industry in Malawi is growing things, growing crops and materials and tea and sugar and tobacco and corn, maize, bananas, mangoes, coffee. Those are all different things that the Malawian people grow. Those are that's the major industry. So most of the people, if they are working, will work in some capacity in agriculture and growing things. That's even if they're not subsistence farmers. A lot of people, everybody honestly has some land that they rent and they grow their own corn. Almost everybody does. Okay, but here a lot of occupations are in agriculture. Okay, again, tobacco, tea. I've been to this actual tea plantation, okay, called Lajiri, okay, near Mount Mulanje. It's incredibly like beautiful. It's stunning. It's great. The tea is great. Okay. And then you have sugar. Okay, with sugar cane. Everybody's growing corn and maize, mangoes, y'all. Who likes mangoes? Who likes mangoes? Anybody like mangoes? Here's the thing. I have mangoes, like so many mangoes growing in my backyard while I was there on these massive trees. These mangoes are like this big. It's crazy. But here's the deal. It's kind of sad a little bit because there's a lot of malnutrition in Malawi, a lot of a lot of poverty and a lot of people not eating well. But the mangoes, they all seem like they're ripe at the same time. And you have mangoes just growing everywhere on these trees all throughout Malawi, and they're trying to sell them to make money on the side of the road. But nobody needs mangoes because there are so many mangoes. There's such a high supply and not a large demand, supply and demand principles, that the cost of a mango would be like a penny or less. In fact, you can't even sell them all because there are so many. All right. But anyway, that's just an example. And then there's some coffee plantations in the northern part of Malawi as well. Okay. All right. Continue here. All right. Imports and exports. Imports and exports. So Malawi imports $12.818 billion of goods. All right. So that's $12,818,000,000 of goods that Malawi buys from other countries that they have to bring in, that they pay for. Okay, you see these percentages. They're bringing in goods from South Africa. They're bringing in a lot of goods from China, India, United Arab Emirates, and the Netherlands. That gets my mind going. Like, what are they bringing in from the United Arab Emirates? What are they bringing in from the Netherlands? But nonetheless, those are the percentages. Okay, and there are obviously more because that doesn't add up to 100, but that's just an idea. Okay. Then you have exports. Malawi sells or sends out 10 billion, okay? 10.718 billion, which is $10,718,000,000 of goods to Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Belgium, South Africa, Netherlands, United Kingdom or Great Britain, Germany, and the United States. All right, so here's your math question. Does Malawi have a trade surplus or deficit, and how much? Let me know your answer in the chat. Let me know the answer in the chat when you get it. Do they have a trade surplus or deficit? And what is the amount of the surplus or deficit? Think through this. Think through Malawi as a business. If you have a surplus, a business surplus or profit, then you are selling more than you're buying. If you have a deficit, you are buying, spending more money than you're selling, and you're then losing money. So is Malawi making money or losing money? If you're making money, it is a surplus. If you're losing money, it is a deficit. Okay, all right, currency. All right, we know earlier that's the Malawian kwacha, because Zimbabwe, I believe Zimbabwe or Zambia also has a kwacha. Okay, but a Malawian kwacha is the currency. And here's the number here. 762. When I was there, it was 150, and then it changed a little bit to 175. Okay. Oh man, I got a story about that for y'all too. Let me tell you, I'll take a quick story. Equals $1. So when I was there, you could get, you basically bring over US dollars and you trade it and you end up with a lot of kwacha. And so that was the best way to do it, was actually to get cash, American like dollars. Then you take it to the bank, the Forex, the foreign exchange bank, and then you you exchange it and you end up getting more kwacha than if you ran it through the Malawian bank. Okay. I don't know if that makes sense. But so we have friends come visit, and I sent them money from my bank account to my friends so they could bring over cash. So I could take the cash to the bank, and let's say if I just took my money out of the Malawian bank where I had some of the money, let's say I get like 150 kwacha per US dollar. But if I brought actual cash and took it to the bank, I would get like 180 kwacha per dollar. So I would kind of make 30 kwacha per dollar if I brought cash. So I have my goodness, I have my friends bring cash over. So I got the cash, and then I put it in a book, the cash, and then I packed up the book and put the book in a bag so my friends could take it home. So I would have to bring less home when I traveled back from Malawi when I came back in the summer. So they brought the cash over and everything, and then I accidentally shipped it right back to them in a book. But I still got the cash when I got home. But anyways, my plan didn't work. Nonetheless, here we go. So I have 762 Malawian kwacha equals $1.